Welcome, Britain. Welcome back to the Manish Tiwari show. We'll still continue to be in the lockdown, and it seems like this is not going to change for a while. My show, as you know, is dedicated to multicultural Britain. And what makes this country multicultural, because it was not designed to be like this, we achieved this because of certain policies, certain people who have been instrumental in ensuring that this society stands for all and it provides equal opportunity. And today, we have a guest who, in his very own way, has been instrumental in creating a platform which helps people from different backgrounds to come forward and be connected to bigger corporations, to be able to run their enterprises successfully, to be able to be motivated, and to find the right tools. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us here today in our studios Mayank Shah, the founder of MSD UK. Mayank, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Manish, and it's good to be here. Really important we are discussing today, and I'm glad to be here to share the stage with you, although remotely.
Thank you, Mayank. Normally, we would end up meeting at least 4 times a year. From the last 10 years, I remember that at least 3 to 4 times we would end up meeting either in your awards or networking events or one of those get-togethers. But last year, being the pandemic year, possibly the first time, I haven't met you physically. And this is a wonderful opportunity in 2021 to see you face-to-face, at least, and talk to you and talk about the wonderful work which you do. So Mayank, before we start, I'll just like to remind viewers that what you do, you run this very important organization called MSD UK, which stands for Minority Supplier Diversity in the UK. Mayank, from whatever I know, you started your journey way back in India, where you used to run a business, and then you migrated to the United Kingdom as a student, which was not like other students in their early 20s, but as a family man who came here to study something quite unique. And then eventually you were instrumental in laying the foundations of MSD UK, which started with you at the helm of its affairs. Mayank, would you like to share a little bit about the journey, you coming to the United Kingdom, how MSD UK got started, and what it stands for?
It makes me feel very old, but I was already born in Delhi, and in the heart of Delhi, in the Chandni Chowk, and I miss even now. And grew up in the city. Had my master's from Delhi University, and started my career and working for a heavy moving equipment company. And then after 4 years, I started my own business in India, in Delhi, procuring steel as a raw material for OEMs. That continued for nearly 14 years, and I got married. I had a son and a daughter, born in 1992. Continued to do business, but there was that frustration that was there when I was looking at trying to do business in my own way. But, we all know about the Indian business environment and bureaucracy and everything that was around there. And I made my personal decision. It is nothing to do because I know India is one of the leading global economy at the moment. And I just admire how entrepreneurs, our business owners are in India. But I decided in around 2000 that I want to come out of India and build a new future for me and my family, giving them a much more secure and much more better environment. And for that, at the age of 38, I just took that risk with a growing family, not much money with me, to come on as a student. to UK, uh, just for better opportunities, and that was what it was a decision that when I look back at it, with a young family, how can I make that decision? I came over here, did my MBA, and then wanted to stay back. So this is, I think, a typical story of any immigrant that's and want to stay, trying to find out how do you make it work. How do you that you get a work permit and in those days and find an employer to give you opportunity. And I had to, had very little time. So what should I do? Because my student visa was expiring, and uh, I just wanted to extend my stay so that I can sort out my immigration. And I ended up starting my PhD uh, in Leicester, Montfort University, and it was about the whole idea of supplier diversity, which is about how to support and encourage and ethnic minority business in this country, businesses that are set up by immigrants in this country. How can we bring them into mainstream? How can we make sure that we help them grow by getting them into corporate, big, do business with big companies, big global firms? That's the whole notion of supplier diversity. And I did my PhD on that, and that led to formation of Minority Supplier Development UK, MSD UK, as a not-for-profit organization in 2006. And that led to me, settling down in this country, get my citizenship, and I always say that in my life, whatever I achieved, both India and India have played a major role. Both the countries have played a major role.
No, thanks, Wang. And thanks for being so honest. So that's like a remarkable journey. Most people at 38 would be thinking in a different way, particularly in India. They start thinking of their
Yeah.
retirement even before they touch 40. So that was really remarkable that you took that call. And that calling, I'm sure, was based on strong reasons. You decided to move here and you had a remarkable journey. You kind of learned or kind of dealt with your insecurities as a student and then found a way to leverage it to create this remarkable organization. So it's a great story, simple but very powerful. Mang, you talked about MSD UK as an organization which helps to support ethnic minority businesses. So where does MSD UK come from? What is its origins? I mean, for me, when I heard about it, and that was from you long back, almost 15 years back, when I heard about it, it sounded like a fresh breath of life. There's someone thinking about small businesses. Imagine a bigger business thinking about how to partner and grow these small businesses. So that's a very different kind of thinking. It does not grow, it does not seem logical. So where does this come from? What are its origins, and how does it help ethnic minority business? Would you like to talk about that a little?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think, what I'm saying is echoes what every immigrant in any country goes through. We are all here. We are uprooting ourselves from our, the land where we are born and our country of origin, without, disconnecting with our families and coming to a totally new country and new environment. Uh, to be successful, uh, we face a lot of challenges. We all have gone through those challenges, whether it's discrimination, whether it's acceptance, whether it's opportunities, and how do you access opportunities, language barrier, education, everything that we face as any immigrant face, uh, is remarkable, because it makes us much more resilient. It makes us all try doubly hard. Because people say that we as immigrants have to work double hard to be as successful as any individual white business. So when I was doing my PhD, the whole PhD was about looking back at an experiment that has been going on in America for last 40 years, and the roots of that movement was built around the 1960s, when late 1960s. America faced, a huge racial riots and discrimination over there with the times of Martin Luther King, uh, and and the solution that some of the big corporations, big companies like Ford Motors and Chrysler, they came together was to how can we encourage entrepreneurship in those communities that uh, they can become employers, they can create more jobs in their own community and support uh, local people, local small businesses. That was the sort of foundation on which supplier diversity was, the foundation was laid in America. And when I started my PhD, one of the things that I did was to understand the American model because it has been very successful. It has seen small minority businesses, whether they are Black, Asian, Latinos, Mexicans, grow into very large multi-billion dollar businesses because of intervention by multinationals who wanted to make sure that the community they serve in have better life standards, better disposable income, better education attainment. They thought help entrepreneurs in those communities, helping them build bigger businesses would create that environment where minority communities get access to equal opportunities uh, and improve their lives. And my research for 4 years between 2002 to 2006 was about that. And how can we learn from that experience and help immigrant businesses in this country? And that is how the foundation of MST UK was laid. It is a not-for-profit organization, and current the last 14 years we have worked with nearly 200 global businesses from the mix of IBM to Unilever, local companies, but HSBC or Barclays Bank, or we have currently we are working with more than 100 corporations, and what we do is we help them understand the value of diversity that minority businesses can bring to the supply chain, but also try to identify opportunities that are really good for minority businesses, bring that up, open that supply chain, and offer that opportunity to minority businesses. Now, we have been working with more than 3,000 ethnic minority businesses in this country. And it's a very good time for you to invite me because on coming Wednesday, we are launching the biggest ever research that has ever been done to measure the economic contribution that ethnic minority businesses make to the British economy. Because one of the things that I always find for the last 20 years is that we all collectively, all the ethnic minority communities are shy of talking about our achievements and talking about what we bring to this country. That, we make us, make sure that we are counted in this country and people realize how much ethnic minority businesses and communities have contributed to the success of this country.
No, great. I mean, that's absolutely heartening to know, Meg. And this report hopefully is picked up by the press and media because it's really important that we throw some light on this. I had another question for you. When you were talking about MSD UK and its origins in the United States, I had that feeling that, this is the kind of story which eventually, we need to ingrain in the next generation, where the consumer or the people who use our products as a corporation, if we are selling to them, also are become enlightened customers. They're not just someone who's only a consumer, but they're also a partner at that level. And I think from that perspective, it sounds to me a bit like pay it forward. What the multinationals in the United States did is a bit of an enlightened thinking that by creating empowered suppliers or empowered vendors or taking care of the communities, they're going to eventually help themselves, because this is going to build a better society and a better economy. Do you think by doing this in the last 14, 15 years, the kind of businesses you have helped grow, the smaller businesses you've helped in some ways get bigger contracts, grow their profiles, and get better at their business, have they been able to imbibe this value system? Have they been able to kind of contribute back to the society in some way? Mang, we're going to take a short break and we'll come back to this question.
Sure.
Whether what you're doing creates a better society, is helping ethnic minority-owned businesses to further give back to the society. Thank you. We'll come back right after the break. Welcome, Mang, back to the show. Before we went into the break, I was asking you whether MSDUK, in its own way, has helped to create a better society by bringing those businesses which are minority owned and making them aware and conscious that they have a role for the society, that they have to, in some way, pay it forward. Do you think that has happened, Mang?
I think yes, because we did a piece of research assessing the impact the businesses that we are engaged with in MST UK make on the local communities. And the research showed that 70% of the businesses that are part of our network are based in some of the most deprived areas in this. But they employ more, I think it's around 12% increase in their employment year on year, which is higher than the indigenous businesses. They also employ more young people, more apprentices than the normal British businesses. Also, they have grown over the last so many years. Over the last 5 years, a consistent growth of 20% year on year has been recorded in our network. But if you look, Manish, around the country, especially during the time of COVID-19, there are so many examples of how communities, people from different backgrounds, whether it's gurudwaras, whether it's mosques doing free meal services, meal delivery, and cooking meals and serving the frontline workforce. I think contribution has been immense. Whenever this country has faced with a situation where it needs more help, I think our people from our communities have come forward to help and support. So I think I'm saying that I think that people from our communities, ethnic minorities, whether they are Black, African, Caribbean, Asian, everyone have contributed to the development of this country, and especially working in the local communities, and especially entrepreneurs from our communities. We have seen so many examples of going beyond, above and beyond their normal sort of rituals to support the local community.
No, great, Mayank. And I have the same feeling. Our people, and from all ethnic backgrounds, have stepped up more often than not. And I think we need to make that part of our culture. Mayank, I have another question for you, which is a slightly contentious issue. When we, as communities, we not the most comfortable with, which is how we've been clubbed under the BAME or BAME tagline. And that's partly historical, because it happened at one point of time when the think tank or the public policy groups or the government decided to give this tag to all of us, saying that we belong to BAME or BAME groups. But over the years, some of the people I know in different communities have not been the most comfortable with it. And then also, possibly it works in terms of as a political power, because collectively we have more power politically. But do you think that is the right approach? And because you deal with the same issue, MSD UK actively supports minority who we think is BAME or BAME. What's your view on that?
So when you talk about BAME, what does it stand for? It's Black, Asian, Minority, Ethnic. And when I came to this country and when I saw and heard about this. As part of my research, the first thing I saw was BAME. And the first thing that came to mind is the old age, age-old policy of divide and rule.
Mm.
You know, identifying our minorities communities as Black, Asian, minority. You are almost departmentalizing our ethnic minority communities. At the same time, I remember uh, my dad saying to me always that together we are stronger. We are five siblings, have four brother and sister, and he always used to say that you are like five fingers, but if you are work in silo, you are not going to achieve anything. But if if I say in Hindi, bandi mukhi lakhi, that is what my father always used to say. And I think, and that's the reason MST UK has never used that terminology of BAME. And we always say ethnic minority communities, ethnic minority businesses, because it brings us all together. And I always, I'm a strong believer that together, as communities, we have so much to learn from each other. If we work in silos, we are not strengthening our cause. We are not learning from each other, because every single community, we come from different backgrounds and we all have our strengths, but we also have our own challenges and differences. And only by coming together and learning from each other, we would be better off and much stronger.
No, man, thanks. I mean, that's very heartening to know again, and very important distinction you made, that it's eventually ethnic minority businesses. It's not about where we come from, and I guess that's the right way to go about it. But in certain circles, and particularly, I kind of go around and meet a lot of people from different backgrounds, and there's this overarching feeling that somehow the Asian businesses have succeeded. Some of them have done really well and are at the forefront, while Black businesses in general have not done so well. And that's kind of a distinction between the communities. I don't know if it's fact-based, because I can't see any research which single-pointedly says that. But yes, there is a grain of truth in that. And what do you think is the reason for it, and what do you think where this distinction is coming from?
It's a very interesting question, Manish, because I think, yes, absolutely, we all know that there's a disparity when it comes to where Asians is a success story in the minority business community. But I think we have to, and there are multiple reasons why this differences, exist. Because you need to go back to the history of immigration and why Asians came into this country, and why people from Africa and Caribbean came, and through what route they came. And I think that basically, if you look deeply into that, Asians came from Africa, where they were already successful entrepreneurs. They were already successful, and they brought that business skills over here, and they always wanted to be entrepreneurs. Whereas if you think about the history of immigration from Caribbean and African countries, the route and the reason why they came over here was different. We all have gone through the Windrush,
Absolutely.
incident over here. So the history of immigration and why they came is a big important factor in where Asians were already had a good start, an early start into entrepreneurship. The other thing is about also communities and how the community support is required. Because when you as an immigrant, if for example, if I come over as an immigrant over here, what support system I had within my community helped me succeed. And I think Asians, and even our research that is coming through is this week is has gone into this, and some of the interviews that we have done with entrepreneurs, this comes across very very clearly that they feel that they lack the community support, where we Asians have a much more stronger community support, uh, where encourage. I think success is the criteria in Asian community. Education, attainment. There's historical differences, but at the same time, what is really refreshing to see is that the research says that over the last 10 years, Black businesses starting 3 times more than a business than anyone else in this country. So I think this is a whole idea of maturity in different communities, and we need to accept that. But at the same time, we need to. I always say that whenever I see a challenge, I see an opportunity in that. You know, instead of having that negative attitude, okay, let's accept that there's a difference. At the same time, how can we work together as communities? How can Black community, African Caribbean people who are trying to start a business, what they can do by learning from Asian success? MSDUK, I could have set up an Asian network, that was the most easiest part for me.
Yeah.
I could have just set up a small Asian business network in Leicester instead of even going national. MSDUK represents all ethnic minority businesses from across the country. And the main reason is that, we have to learn from each other. We have to help each other to succeed. And I remember that phrase by Jesse Jackson: if everyone is included, everyone wins. And I think that is important.
Meng, so you said wonderful things. We absolutely are products of our own environment, and the environment shapes, how we progress or move or succeed in practical matters. So definitely, Asian businesses have that ecosystem because some of them are trading communities who have a long history of trading, of working in businesses, and so it goes. But equally, while I was researching this thing, and I spoken to a gentleman, and he said that, look, how we define success is also important. Some of these communities, like African communities and the Caribbean communities, have a different way, have a different value system. They prefer or they value happiness and certain other attributes a lot more than what you would define as being successful. So there's a different way of looking at it as well. So we can't simply categorize it, but yes,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why, we say that, when we speak to some of the second and third generation of Asians in our community, although they are successful, but they are at the same time, they say, I wish I was not a lawyer or a doctor because that's what our parents pushed us to. Uh,
Yeah.
and so again, it's a matter of choice, but also we know that how much parents are first, everywhere in Asia, whether you go to China, whether education is important, but at the same time, we are not giving our kids, the next generation, an opportunity to do whatever they want to do.
Absolutely, Mang. So I think there are some very deep-seated issues here, and it's not as black and white as people would like to make us believe.
Yes.
So absolutely there. Mang, you talked about your journey from India, and I remember listening to this story where you talked about how corruption in those days was endemic, and I don't know if things have changed now, but there was a narrative there which has always stayed with me. Because that's a story, which kinds of, makes us revisit that this whole migration story, how people move from one continent to another, is not so linear. It's not simply dependent on certain factors, but there's an undercurrent. There are ways things are not happening, which is, bureaucracy and corruption have taken over and created a society which is more reeking of nepotism than anywhere else. Would you like to revisit that story with me? I mean, because when you first told me, it stayed with me. It made me question certain things of how things are done in India. And it made me really appreciate some of the fundamentals of British society. How British society in today's time has been, in many, many ways, open to creating equal opportunity for all and is able to re-examine and reconsider its value system. Hank, would you like to share the story?
I think there are two stories that come to my mind in my that I have experienced in India while was there before I moved to this country, and I think those two stories and those two incidents in my life did played a big role in me making a decision to uproot my family from India and come to UK. And I'll just give you a example that in the last 4 years before I came to this country. I was running an export business, and it was more in fashion and textile. And we were a small fish in the big pond, and uh, we invested. And how that industry worked with a major market in Paris with some big fashion labels was about, always trying to create new designs and new concepts, and quality wise it has to be really good, and you keep investing in new samples, new design, and
Mank,
send
I
it
will have
out.
to hold
Sorry.
you back for 1 minute because we have a short break. So we'll be right there after the break and
Sure.
we'll continue with this. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We can go for a break. Welcome, viewers. We have with us in studio today Mayank Shah, a very remarkable man, the founder of MSD UK. And just before we went into the break, he was narrating his story about an experience in India. And I particularly feel that this is really important for us to understand why and how societies should evolve so that we create an ecosystem which helps innovation, which helps entrepreneurs, and which creates a fair and equitable society. So, Mayank, over to you. We left it somewhere. If you could.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I think, I was talking about this, my experience of when I was in the export business in the textile industry. And as a small business, we were investing heavily in creating new designs, new concepts, and then you have to send those samples out uh, to design to boutiques in Paris. It was a huge investment from our side, and I remember we used to do that. And 6 months down the line, we'll get some orders, and first order, we were excited. We have succeeded in winning some really good business, and we ship the consignment. And the first thing that happens that night is the custom officer is you know is with is on a payroll of a big exporter, and he copies our invoice and pass it on to the big boys, and they reduce the price, they get the design, and we lose the customer. We never get that order back. That was that made me realize that, is this where I want my kids to grow? Is this a society where uh, you know everyone is a cutthroat competition? There are no values. Businesses are not done on values, and I had another very bad experience of getting into the a police station for no fault of mine, and it was just because my competitor had bribed them to lock us up, and threatened to lock us up. And then same policeman was asking us to very clear to say, "I've been paid. If you pay me, I will release you." And that day in that police station, I made a decision that I don't want to live in this country. And that was the moment that I made a decision that I just want to get away from here, because that's not the society that I want to live in. That's not where I want to raise my kids. And that so I came over here, and if I look at my success story over here, no one knew me over here. And I was suspended from my MBA because I didn't have money to pay, but my university supported me. When I went for my PhD, it was a grant of £40,000 that was given to me, and I went on an interview where there was a government official who was investing in that PhD, and there was a professor, and they never knew me. I never knew them. And within 20 minutes, they gave £40,000 grant. And I think back, is that possible in India? No, you know. And after that PhD, I almost raised £1 million over the last over a period of 3 years to support that project. And I didn't have to bribe anyone. I didn't have to speak to anyone. I was just being honest of what I want to do, and I got that support. And I think that's what is very important, to know that this country gives you opportunity. We have to seize those opportunities, but also as an immigrant, I also think that I have a responsibility to integrate into this society. I also have to give back, and if I do that, I'm successful, and my success is purely because I was dedicated, I was honest, I had, everything that I did was with integrity, and that's the reason why MST UK is where it is.
Thank you, Mank. The story which you narrated in some ways inspires me. It's not an inspiring story, but it still inspires me because of the honesty and the truth behind it. And it shows us something is not quite right with the way things have happened in India. And I wish I could grant you that platform to speak about this to the leaders, to our leaders, so that they can see for themselves how things have not been right. And it's not just enough to create a bigger economy, but it's also equally important to create an economy where everyone can have equal rights. So, Mank, I wish I can do that someday, but right now I can only invite you to my show and talk about it. And what you said earlier also is so true, because even once my mother asked, and she asked me and said, why don't you do this business in India? And my reply was that, look, to even get started in India, I don't know, unless I have that kind of money, it would take endless running around and possibly bribing people, and that still remains true. So that's a sad reality of the Indian society even today. Meng, moving forward, what you're doing is absolutely inspiring and helpful for a lot of people. But I've not seen the British government, or at least so far, whatever I've come across in your journey, I don't think the government has played an important part. Something which I feel should happen. I mean, something which I think some of the public sector or some of the more powerful forces in the government should come forward and support it. I know you have support from the local bodies like the East Midlands body, which used to kind of be part of it. But personally, I feel that has not quite got the recognition which it deserves. Do you want to say something about that, man?
I think yes, absolutely, because there are some fundamental flaws in our system where it doesn't allow, it doesn't go beyond, especially in the public sector procurement, because government is a big buyer of goods and services, and in America, there are mandates. If a certain percentage of public sector contract needs to go to minority-owned businesses. I think the British government won't go and to that extent and have a mandate, but some changes in language and pushing for a much more inclusive approach to procurement is going to open up so many opportunities for minority businesses. This government has pushed forward this whole. I think they won the election on this whole agenda of leveling up, which is about how can they improve the economies outside of London. And if you think about then, 80% of minority population communities live in 5 big cities, and 4 are outside London, Birmingham, Manchester, and those cities. And if government truly believes in that, then they can do a lot to make sure that they are leveling up. Still, we haven't seen anything happening, but we are always, we sit on a number of committees, like I am on the all parliamentary party committee for ethnic minority businesses. Our research report that is coming is really recommending making some strong recommendations to make those difference. So I think also the big role that global companies can play in pushing the government to push this agenda is also important. And I'm seeing that is happening, especially after pandemic, where there's a bigger realization that there's a growing inequality in the society. And the Black Lives Movement has again raised that issue further. And there is more willingness from global companies to really genuinely not tick the box, but genuinely invest in development of these communities. So I think that we are almost there where we will see some big changes.
So, Venk, so what is your personal ambition now, and how do you want to take MSD UK forward? And are the two aligned in terms of your life and MSD UK?
I'm a man with very simple lifestyle and not very ambitious, in a sense that someone asked me what the success looks like for MSD UK, and I said, the day when MSD UK is not required, that's the success for me, because I've done my work where we don't have to create another organization to support minorities. It becomes business as usual. So that's the biggest, if you ask me what's the success for MSD UK, the day it ceased to exist is the success of MSD UK. But I will continue fighting. I'm really passionate, and what drives me is every day morning I come and meet new entrepreneurs, understand different cultures, understand their values, and I'm so proud of the community that we have built around here within MSD UK.
Great, Mank. And what are your most rewarding moments? When did you feel that you felt rewarded? I know you were recently listed in the Guardian top 20 list as a global champion of diversity. What are the other accolades where you actually felt that yes, someone has recognized you? Because recognition is also important.
I think my way of looking at recognition is about the love and support that I get from everyone that in the community that I've built around me. I have known you for so many years, and it's just, I always think that this is a family and everyone helps each other. But honestly, I'm not running for any awards or any recognition. I'm content with, if people say good things about me, that's enough for me.
No. Thank you, Mank. Mank, from my experience, MSD UK has achieved a lot, and you, as its torchbearer, has done what you set out to do. And definitely in the coming times, we'll see it getting more visibility and power. There's been a lot of effort and teamwork. What do you think you would advise to people who are part of MSD UK, and also to young entrepreneurs who come from ethnic backgrounds? And a lot of them come through a lot of struggle, as you rightly pointed out. They don't have the right role models, they don't have the right background, or they don't have the right infrastructure, they don't have the right reference points. So for them, starting out in a way from the cold, what do you think they should be doing? What would be your advice to people who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to be innovators, and who want to grow businesses?
I think, first of all, my message to them is be fearful, never shy away from seizing opportunities. Think big, because one of the biggest issue we have is that we lack confidence. Many communities lack confidence. We need to think about, and also think differently, think outside the box. Don't start a business that is, not very unique, because the only way to get into mainstream is trying to be unique and be different. If you want to start a business, why don't you think about where big companies are looking at, where the world is going? The whole issue around environment, whole issue about sustainability is important. Why can't we think about some new business ideas that are those industries? The other thing I would say is that, again, if you think about the COVID-19 and how it impacted the whole hospitality industry and events industry, right? But problem I see in our community is that most of our people and businesses are in the wedding industry, whereas if they were in corporate events management, it's still thriving because people have moved away from virtual events to like this, what we are doing today. But so that's the transition. And finally, I think get our house in order, because I don't want to say anything bad, but it's we need to make sure that our finances are clear, our infrastructure is good, we are professional. If we do that, you will be successful.
Thank you, Mank. We're running out of time now, but it's such a pleasure to have you here and to hear your thoughts. All the best to MSD UK, and in coming times, it will continue to inspire lots of people, and it will help ethnic minority businesses reach and scale new heights. Thanks a lot for being here, Mank. Mank Shah
Thanks
from
for having
MSD
me.
UK.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, viewers. See you next week.